Hey, welcome back to Michael Tells. Today's story is a tough one. A guy, an ordinary mechanic, hands his boss his phone and finds out his whole life isn't what he thought it was. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this one ends. Real quick before we start, the channel's numbers have been rough lately, so if you've got a second, a like or even a one-word comment genuinely helps push it forward. No pressure. All right, let's get into it.
The thing I keep coming back to is his face. My boss. This is a man I've watched pull a transmission apart with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. Not flinch, not blink. And he looked at my phone, at a photo of my girlfriend, and all the color just drained out of him, like someone pulled a plug. And he said, real quiet, "Matteo, I was with her last weekend." Let me back up, because if I just start there, you're going to think it's one kind of story, and it turned out to be a completely different kind. My name's Matteo Greco. I'm 34. I fix cars for a living, and I mean that in the most literal, boring, wonderful way. I'm a mechanic. Not a technician, not a service advisor, none of that. I put my hands inside engines, and I make broken things run again. I live in this little village in Umbria, in the middle of Italy, up in the hills. If I told you the name, you'd have to look it up on a map twice. There's a church, a bar, a place that sells bread 3 days a week, and a lot of old men who have opinions about everything. That's home. I've loved working with my hands since I was a kid. My father had this old Fiat, a real piece of junk, God rest him, and it broke down constantly. And instead of paying someone, he'd pop the hood and go, "Matteo, come here, hold this light." And I'd stand there, 6, 7 years old, holding a flashlight with both hands, and he'd talk me through it. You hear that? That ticking? That's the valve. Listen to the car. It tells you what's wrong if you shut up long enough to hear it. I still say that to myself. Almost 30 years later, hands in an engine. Shut up and listen. It'll tell you what's wrong. Funny how that works with cars and not with people.
Oh man, I had to stop him right there. I did the exact same thing as a kid, holding the light for my dad, handing him the wrong wrench every time. That's such a specific feeling, isn't it? Did any of you grow up like that? Tell me in the comments.
Anyway, I've worked at a little shop about 15 minutes from my house for 5 years now, and honestly, no complaints. Out in the country, so no fleet of BMWs, tractors, old pandas, somebody's cousin's van that's been making a noise for 2 years. But there's always work, and the money's decent, and I like it more than I probably should admit. There's 3 of us. That's the whole operation. Me, a younger guy named Dario, and the owner, Gianni De Luca. And here's the thing about the boss. There's no boss stuff between us. No yes sir, no sir, nobody lording it over anybody. Just 3 men who fix cars together and split a bottle of wine on Fridays. I'm telling you this because you need to understand. Going to work, for me, it feels like a holiday. I pull up, I smell the oil and the coffee Gianni burns every single morning, and I think, good. This is a good place to be. Okay, so, my personal life. I was married, briefly. I dated her for 2 years, Federica, and they were good years. I thought I knew her completely. Big church wedding, my mother crying, the whole village eating too much and dancing badly. And the marriage lasted 4 months. 4 months. I've owned yogurt longer than I was happily married. Something changed in her the second the paperwork was signed. Like the wedding wasn't the beginning of something, it was the finish line. And once she crossed it, she just became somebody I didn't recognize. Cold one day, screaming the next. I tried. But after 4 months, I couldn't do it anymore, and I ended it. And then she's the one who filed for divorce. Like I was the one lucky enough to get dumped. Fine. I signed everything they put in front of me and moved back into a life that fit me again. So that's where I was. Divorced, 34, living alone, happy at work, quiet at home. And I'd sort of made peace with the idea that maybe that was it for me and love. Maybe some people just get a bad round and that's the hand.
4 months. 2 years together, and it fell apart in 4 months. I've heard a lot of stories on this channel, and that one stung. Sometimes you don't really know a person until the pressure's on. Hold that thought. It matters more later than you'd think.
And then, about 3 months ago, I met Valentina. She's from the next village over. Not even far. You could walk it in 20 minutes if the road weren't so bad. 29 years old. And from the first conversation, I mean the very first one, it was easy. You know that thing where being around a person costs you effort? Where you're kind of performing, kind of managing it? It was none of that. It was like exhaling. She laughed at the stupid stuff I said. She teased me about my hands always being dirty. She asked about my father and actually listened. Easy. That's the word I kept using in my head. She's easy to be with. She's been through it too. Divorced twice. She told me that early. No shame about it, just, here's who I am, take it or leave it. I liked that. And she's got a son. Little guy, he's 7, and she talks about him like he's the sun and the moon. Which, of course, made me like her more. We'd see each other on weekends. During the week she's got her life, the boy, whatever she does, and I've got the shop. But the weekends were ours. Coffee, drive somewhere, sit by the river, nothing fancy. And it was good, genuinely good. For the first time since the whole Federica disaster, I thought, okay, maybe I get a second round after all. And then last Tuesday I'm at the shop, elbow deep in a punto that somebody's been ignoring for years. And my hands are, they're black. Grease up to the wrist, both hands, the kind where you can't even touch your own face. And my phone starts ringing. It's on the workbench a few feet away and I go, Gianni, can you grab that? Tell him I'll call back. And Gianni wipes his hands and walks over and picks up my phone. And I hear him kind of, stop. Not say anything, just stop. And I look over and he's staring at the screen. Because when Valentina calls, her photo comes up. This picture I took of her by the river, squinting into the sun, laughing. And he's staring at it like it's a photo of a ghost. He goes, real careful, you want me to answer this? And I say, no, tell her I'll call her back tonight, my hands are a mess. And it stops ringing. And he sets the phone down. And he doesn't move. And there's this, I don't know how to describe it, this weight in the room all of a sudden. And he says, Matteo, this woman, how do you know her? And I laughed because it was a weird question. I said, her? That's Valentina. That's my girl, actually. We've been seeing each other a couple months. Why, you know her? And that's when it happened. That's the face I told you about. All the color just went out of him. Gianni's got this ruddy face, always a little sunburned, always a little wine flushed. And it went grey, right in front of me. He didn't say anything for a second. He sort of sat down on the stool by the bench, and then he said, so quiet I almost didn't catch it, I was with her last weekend. And I said, because my brain refused to go where it was going, I said, what do you mean, with her? Like you ran into her? And he looked at me. And I've known this man 5 years. I've never seen him look like he wanted to be anywhere else on earth. And he said, no, Matteo, not like that.
And this is the moment my stomach dropped listening to him. His own boss, standing right there in the shop. Just imagine being in his shoes for 1 second, grease on your hands, a normal Tuesday, and the floor just opens up under you. What would even go through your head?
I'm gonna tell this part carefully, because it's not mine to be cruel about. And honestly, even now, I'm not trying to be. But I have to tell you what he told me, because it's the whole thing. He didn't want to say it. He kept starting and stopping. He kept going, I don't know how to, and rubbing his face. And finally, he just said it plain, because there's no soft way. He'd met her the weekend before, not by chance. He'd arranged it. There are men around here, a lot of men apparently, more than I ever would have guessed, who arranged to spend time with Valentina, and it's understood between them what that is. It's an arrangement. Money changes hands. She's available, in a way I did not know she was available, to people who pay. That's as far as I'll go with it. You get it. I don't need to spell it out, and I don't want to. But that's what he told me. My girlfriend, my easy, laughing, by-the-river girlfriend, the one I was starting to build something in my head about. A lot of the men in these two little villages knew her in a way I didn't, and my own boss was one of them. Last weekend, while I thought she was home with her son. I don't really have words for what that did to me, standing there with grease on my hands in a shop that had felt like a holiday 20 minutes earlier. Gianni felt terrible. I want to say that, because he's a good man, and he didn't have to tell me. He could have just let it ride, deleted it from his own head. Nobody would have known. But he looked at me and he said, I couldn't let you keep going not knowing. If it were me, I'd want somebody to tell me. And then he said the thing that actually stuck the knife in. Not because he meant it to, but because it was true. He said, Matteo, half the men who come through here have, and he stopped himself. But I heard the shape of it. Half the men who come through here. Guys I fix cars for. Guys who shake my hand. Some of them knew. Some of them knew and knew about me and her, and said nothing, and smiled at me. That's the part that curdled in me. Not even her. The being laughed at. The idea that I was walking around this village the happy fool. The guy who got a second chance. And there were men buying their bread 3 feet from me who knew exactly what I was. Which was a joke. I didn't cry. I want to say that, though I don't know why it matters. I just went very, very still. And very cold. Gianni kept saying, You okay? Matteo, say something. And I couldn't. I finished the punto. Isn't that insane? I finished the car. My hands knew what to do even when the rest of me had left the building. Shut up and listen, it'll tell you what's wrong. Yeah, thanks, Dad. Now, here's where I could have done something stupid. And the old me, the young me, would have. I would have grabbed the phone and called her right then, screaming, or driven to our village, or texted something I couldn't take back. But I didn't. And I'm almost proud of that, of the one clear thought I had in all that noise, which was, don't rip it out by the root right now. Wait, look her in the eye, give her the chance to be a person to you first. Wait for the weekend. So I waited. 3 of the longest days of my life. I barely slept. I'd lie there and run every weekend back through my head. Every laugh, every, I really like you, Matteo. And try to figure out what was real and what was, I don't even know, performance, management. The thing I told you I loved about her, that it was easy, that there was no effort. I started to wonder if that was the whole trick. If easy is what it feels like when someone's very, very practiced. And then the weekend came, and we met. Same as always, a little cafe halfway between our villages. She was already there when I pulled up, and she looked so happy to see me. She had this smile, and she stood up to hug me, and God help me, part of me still wanted to fall into it. I sat down, and I didn't yell, I just looked at her, and I said, Valentina, is there anything you want to tell me? And the smile, it didn't drop all at once, it kind of slid, slowly. Like she'd been waiting for this, like some part of her always knew this coffee was coming. And she got very quiet, and she looked down at the table, and she said, You already know, don't you? And something about her saying it like that, so calm, so ready, it lit me up. Because it meant it was never a question of if I'd find out, it was just when. She'd been counting on me being the one who didn't know. And I said, Yeah, I know. I found out from my boss, Valentina. My boss, standing in my shop. That's how I found out. My voice was shaking. You know what that feels like? Do you have any idea? I got laughed at. I've been getting laughed at for weeks and I didn't even... Why didn't you tell me? Why did you let me... And I couldn't finish it. And she started to cry. And I don't say that dismissively. She really did. It wasn't a show. Or if it was a show, it was a very good one. And after everything, I don't know anymore which. But she cried. And she said, Matteo, I don't do it for fun. I don't... You think I want this? I have a son. I have a 7-year-old boy. And no husband. And no help. And rent. And I ran out of ways to make it work. Nobody around here wants to hire the twice divorced woman with a kid. So I do what I have to do, so he eats. That's it. That's the whole ugly thing. And then she reached across the table and she said the thing I'd been dreading, because part of me wanted so badly to believe it. She said, "But not you. You have to understand. What I do, that's not you. With you it was never about money. I never took anything from you. I never would. With you it was real. You're the only real thing I've had in years. I feel something for you, Matteo. I actually feel something. That's why I couldn't tell you, because I didn't want to lose the one thing that was real." And I sat there, and I looked at her crying, this woman I really did care about, telling me the one thing that could have saved it. And I didn't believe her. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But here's what I'd learned, and I learned it the expensive way. Twice now. Once from a wife who became a stranger in 4 months, and now from this. When someone shows you who they are, and you catch them, and only then do they tell you the beautiful version, you can't build anything on that. Because you'll never know. Every weekend for the rest of my life I'd be doing math in my head. Is this real? Is this the real one or the other one? Was that love for me, or is that just how it looks? I'd become that man, the one squinting at every smile trying to read the price tag. And I can't be that. I'd rather be alone than be that.
Okay, this is the part everyone's going to argue about. She's crying. She says with him it was real, and maybe it was. But he says he can't ever trust it now. So be honest with me. Was he right to walk away? Or should he have given her one more chance? I really want to know.
So I said no. Just no. And she looked up, and I said, "I don't believe you. I'm sorry. Maybe you mean it, maybe you really do, but I don't have any way to know that, and I can't spend my life not knowing. Everything you just said might be true, but you let me walk around a fool for weeks, and you only told me the truth when I already had it in my hand. That's not honesty. That's getting caught." And I stood up, and I said, "That's it. I'm done, Valentina." And I left money on the table for the coffees, which, I don't know why, that detail haunts me, that I paid for the coffee. And I walked out to my car, and I drove home. And I didn't cry then either. I just drove. I don't know what happened to her after. I hope the boy's okay. I mean that, I really do. None of this is his fault. He's 7. I hope she finds a way up out of it that doesn't cost her what it's been costing. I'm not angry at her, not really, not anymore. I'm not even angry at Gianni. He's the one who told me the truth, and telling me cost him something too. And we're okay, him and me. Still fix cars together, still split the wine on Fridays. He put a hand on my shoulder Monday morning and didn't say anything, and that was enough. The only thing I keep thinking about is my father, and the flashlight, and listen to the car. He tells you what's wrong if you shut up long enough to hear it. Because the thing is, she did tell me. All of it. It was easy, remember? No effort. Never any effort. And a person who's that easy to be with the whole time. I think maybe that was the ticking valve. I think maybe I heard it the whole time, and I just didn't want to shut up long enough to know what it was. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about her. Maybe she meant every word, and I threw away something real because I got scared. I've made peace with not knowing. That's the price of it. That's what you pay to walk away clean. Anyway, that's the whole thing. That's how my boss picked up my phone one Tuesday and told me my life was a different shape than I thought it was. I still love going to work. I still smell that burnt coffee and think, good, this is a good place to be. I just don't tell anybody I've got a girl anymore. Not for a while. I'm gonna go back to listening for a bit. Shut up and listen. It'll tell you what's wrong. It always does.
Every time I sit with a story like this, it stays with me for days. He didn't leave because she was a bad person. He left because he couldn't live not knowing. That's a heavy kind of honesty. If this one moved you, drop a like and tell me what you'd have done. I read every comment, and I'll see you in the next story.